Today's top picks from Reuters Breakingviews. The buck stops with me, or does it? Why Agius alone can't take the rap for Barclays' LIBOR scandal. The banker's backlash will run for years, and football provides a rare ray of sunshine for Spain. Well, with me now to discuss these stories is Reuters Breakingviews Assistant Editor Robert Cole.
Hi.
Robert, good to see you again. You say Bob Diamond, the CEO of Barclays, should go, but not yet. Why is that?
Well, we said last week that we thought that the LIBOR scandal was, if you like, the last straw. The LIBOR scandal in itself is not a big enough reason to merit the departure of Bob Diamond, but coming on top of unpleasantness that he got involved with in terms of tax and in terms of bankers' pay and so on. That this tipped the balance over into him becoming a liability rather than an asset for the company, and that the blame. It's very hard to see how the bank can be cleaned up with the chief executive in place. So what we're saying today actually is that we're trying to put the Agius resignation in context, and Marcus Agius, the chairman of Barclays, very clearly saying today that the buck stops with me. The LIBOR scandal, I'm taking full responsibility for it. Clearly he is taking responsibility for that, and I can't avoid thinking that perhaps that's the decent thing to do. But what we are saying that the buck doesn't stop with Agius, and the pressure certainly still is on Bob Diamond. What it may do is buy Bob Diamond some time, although how much I don't know. And although we think that Diamond's time has come at Barclays, I can see shareholders arriving at a decision which means that Diamond might keep his job. It all depends on who the replacement for Agius is, and that replacement must prove that he can stand up to Bob Diamond, who is, a very forceful character. That's not always a bad thing, of course, but or take the unhappy decision to try and get him to leave the company. But the strength of the chairman, if there's a suitably strong chairman, I think shareholders might be able to say, OK, well, we're now confident that Bob Diamond's strength has a counterweight, and he might keep his job. But
if the responsibility goes right to the top, the buck stops at the top. Bob Diamond was, as we know, heading up Barclays Capital, the investment banking arm of Barclays, which was responsible or in charge of which was an umbrella group over the LIBOR setting traders. Surely there's no sensible argument against Bob Diamond having to take that responsibility himself, not the chairman, who wasn't even there for all that time.
I think Agius is the top job. He is the most senior role in that company, so I think I'd take issue with that one point. The second point is that yes, it is a serious a scandal, but I'm not sure on its own that it does merit the resignation of the chief executive. And of course, if it does merit the resignation of the chief executive, we ought to prepare ourselves to be calling for the resignation of practically every chief executive, because there are other banks, we're told, are coming down the pipeline. So that's not the reason why we're, if you like, singling Bob Diamond out. And I think the other thing to bear in mind here is that, Agius says that he's taking responsibility for the LIBOR scandal, but I think there may be some other disquiet about whether he is strong enough to stand up to Bob Diamond. And actually shareholders might be not expecting him to step down to take responsibility for Diamond, but that actually he's thought not to be quite up to the job, I'm afraid.
Well, you mentioned
I know him and I like him, so I'm hesitating before making these sort of aspersions, but it's hard to not to think of it along those lines.
Well, you mentioned other banks and other CEOs. As we know, the investigation into the scandal is ongoing. It does the reputation of banks in general no good whatsoever. The public anger and backlash against the industry is understandably very fierce and very hot. This is going to run for years, isn't it?
Absolutely, unless some very, very rapid and concerted efforts are made. I think this will be a cloud which darkens and engulfs ever more closely the banking industry.
And you can understand
and it is possible, that further revelations about LIBOR means that maybe all the chief executives of all the big banks have to resign to clean it up. I think that's kind of unlikely, but It is a really serious issue, and I think we also ought to accept and that the LIBOR rigging. There are excuses for it in the sense that if they were trying to let the market know that they weren't stressed, that might have saved money during a panic. So misleading the market has a sort of defence. We're going to be writing about that this afternoon. I'm not quite sure if I'm convinced about it myself.
It's a tough one to sell to the public as well.
Well, it is, and the thing is, you mustn't get caught if you sort of do that. But it's a moot point as to whether the interest rate fixing actually did much damage. But that's not what this is about. This is about the integrity of bankers, and they've been shown to be lacking in that regard.
Exactly, and not for the first time either.
And not for the first time, and that's why it'll run and run.
Let's finish off with something a bit more light-hearted. Spain getting some relief on the football pitch. Fantastic performance last night. I mean, probably one of the best international sides of all time. At least they can take pride and, justifiably so, real pride in what is just a wonderful team.
Absolutely, but I'm afraid I think that the enjoyment of the triumph will probably end over before we've stopped talking. It's going to be yes.
Not by these pictures. I think it's going long into the week.
Well, they should definitely enjoy themselves, and they should hopefully enjoy perhaps a little bit of an economic boost as people celebrate and so on. But I don't think we're going to be marking the upturn of the Spanish economy at this point. Although goodness knows, I hope that's the case.
There's a kind of irony, of course. All these fans that we just saw there celebrating and singing the praise and cheers of multi-millionaire players who live on a completely different planet from them.
Well, that's true. Who mentioned bankers?
Exactly. Okay, Robert, thank you very much. That's all for now. My thanks there to Robert Cole. For more agenda-setting financial insight, watch our US Breaking Views show every day at 12:30 Eastern, 17:30 British Summer Time. I'm Jamie McGeever. This is Reuters.